help too. Insurance agent versus.
We were trying to get out ahead of those numbers to get it. Oh, maybe one night, they say that premise for this work starting tonight,
Okay.
and then all day, all Chris's team will be able to sit together with us. Yes. Yes, we have a full day tomorrow, so we put everyone in the bus at 7:30 in the morning, until 5:30.
No field day?
Digging potatoes, yeah, we're, it's a processor, so we have chip processors from like, California, Pennsylvania, Arkansas. Not the same. Yeah. Michigan, Kansas.
Nice job. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Really setting.
Hey, Ellie. Well, if we go back and we live in Lonnie.
Picture.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, someone. One more year, and yesterday was. All things. Yeah. No, sure.
Thanks. No, I do not.
I think we're ready to roll. We are recording.
All right, sounds good. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started if everyone's set to go. Thank you for joining us and thank you for being here this afternoon, and both for those in the room and also those online. My name is Laura Campbell with Michigan Farm Bureau, and I serve as one of the co-chairs for this committee. So we'll go ahead and get ourselves started here. What I will do is we'll go ahead and go around the room real quick and identify everybody who's here in person. And then if you guys can either bring up on the screen, I've been informed that now we do have a way to be able to record the names of folks who are logging in remotely, so we don't have to go through that laborious process of reading everybody's names. But I think it would be a good idea to show it on the screen if we can, once we get through roll call in the room so that we can see who's participating online. Ben, do you want to get us started?
Absolutely. Ben Terrell, Michigan Farm Bureau, and Laura's alternate.
Michigan Aggregates Association.
Abby, Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development.
Kelly Turner, Michigan Potato Industry Commission.
Joseph Dahl, from MSC.
Rachel Proctor, Energy.
Brian Eggers, AKT Fearless Environmental Services.
I'm Brandon Ellison, OHM Advisors.
Megan Tinsley, Michigan Environmental Council.
Dave Hamilton, the Nature Conservancy.
Christine Alexander, Eagle. Ken Arnett, Eagle.
Jim Milne,
Eagle.
All right, and if we're able to take a quick look and see who all we have participating online, that would be helpful.
Let me interrupt, Laura. This is James Clift. I am calling in today.
Great, thank you. You read my mind. I was just about to ask, who was that with their phone number listed?
Jeremiah Asher, Simon Belisle, John Hesh, McKenna Pishik, Ralph Hefner, Ross Mauer, Joel Henry. And I'm here. John Yelich, Clay Dupree, Katie Lindstrom, Andy LeBaron, Linda Kelly, Mike Frederick, Mike Gallagher, Nina Pappas, Steve Kohler, and Steve Kreider. Sherry Thalen, Todd Feenstra, Tom Frazier, Jay Wesley, Evan Michael.
Great. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. So by my count, we've got 7 here in the room. That does not consist of quorum. So we are not going to be able to do approval of minutes or make any official votes or decisions in terms of stuff that we've got pending for decisions for the council. We'll need to hold those for our next meeting. So I will go ahead and skip through those agenda items and we'll ask if there is any public comment. And Mike Frederick, I see your hand is raised.
It is, Buddy is en route. He is just running late. I just wanted to say that. Now I've got to figure out how to take my hand down. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Jim Nicholas is trying to get on. Was on, but wasn't doing anything. Asked to start it. I told him it was, so it's gonna log out.
Okay, so he's going to be joining us
Yes.
again? Okay. Yep, that's understandable. All this wonderful technology doesn't mean that it always works. All right. I will ask if there's any further public comment. We do have 2 public comment periods, and usually this one is reserved for agenda-related items. We'll have another one for just general items that people want to bring up that may be of interest to the attendees. And hearing none, we don't have anybody trying to get in online to make any additional public comment?
So we'll have one towards the end of the general public comment.
Okay,
Came in by email
okay.
that Andy will read.
All right, great. Well, in that case, we're zipping right along through our agenda. We'll go ahead and jump into legislative update. And I believe with the legislature having been mostly out of session through the summer, we don't have a whole lot of updates. James, is there anything that you have as an update for legislative items or issues?
No, nothing on the legislative front.
Anyone else have any legislative updates or issues that you wanted to bring up in terms of bills, funding, appropriations? All right. Hearing none.
I
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
thought, I just thought of something, Laura, sorry. James,
Uh-huh.
have you heard anything about any of the ARPA funding issues that are hanging out there?
I think you have to be more specific. I mean, I
Okay,
guess, what I've heard is that, on and off, there has been some discussion of supplementals, but nothing that I would call a firm rumor at any level. So I think we're still in kind of a wait and see situation on whether or not we're going to see a supplemental yet this year.
that was what I was asking. I hadn't heard anything
Yep.
either. Thank you.
Any other legislative updates? All right, hearing no other legislative
Sorry.
updates.
Looks like John Yelich has his hand up.
John, do you have something new or did you? Okay. In that case, we'll go ahead and jump into a little bit more detail about the reappointment process. So we did talk about this at our last meeting. I did get some clarification that we've got because we have everyone who was appointed to this council was appointed in the new legislative session that started in 2019, except for any new appointees, obviously, then we will have to wait until after January and after the appointment of our new House Speaker, Senate Majority Leader, new governor, if there is one, to make sure that we are reaching out to the correct individuals to get those reappointments done as necessary. I am hoping, because we haven't had any success in searching for a comprehensive pile of people's reappointment letters to know your exact date. So I would say probably as soon as we can get the information on who has been appointed to those leadership positions, and we'll get information about who their staffers are, because usually it's more effective and quicker to kind of work through those staff folks and make sure that that gets in front of their legislators' desks. We will get that information out to everybody as soon as possible, is when we know it in January. And probably if you aren't able to find your appointment letter to know your exact date, I'm going to say the sooner you can get your letter out there, the better, to make sure that you're getting that reappointment process started, if you choose to be reappointed to the council and are interested in doing so. One of the things that was suggested, and I think this is a good idea, is that we could create maybe something of a template for people to use if you want, as part of your reappointment letter, that kind of helps to explain what the council does and and why it's important to kind of keep the continuity of keeping those same organizations and the same members on this council, so that we can keep working on these issues and not have to spend a lot of time getting a whole new crew of folks up to speed in order to be able to proceed forward with the work. So we will go to work on that and make sure that you guys have that in time for when you send out those letters in January, or whenever you need to get those out, if you're able to find your appointment letter. Are there questions about that? Yeah.
One other thing we talked about is that maybe have a letter come from the council, from the co-chairs, to the governor, to the Senate Majority Leader and Speaker of the House, to introduce the council, let them know. These are the people who've been appointed. There's a preference to those that will be appointed, and you will have new people, or you have those people, others contacting you.
Yep.
Kind of like a recommendation letter, maybe?
Well, it's kind of an introduction, because these are people that aren't going to know about us, not know about us, and they're going to be responsible for appointing or reappointing members. So it'd be good if there's something that's kind of from the council introducing, and then the rest of us can kind of get in line.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You did bring that up at our last meeting, and I think that would be good to either, to send that out as soon as we get the information on who those folks in leadership positions are, and make sure that they're comfortable and aware and know what it is that the council does. They definitely appreciate that. Any other questions about reappointment? I am hearing none. So the next agenda item, we're actually not going to be able to do because we don't have quorum. But we are very glad to see you here, Dr. Dong, and appreciate you taking part in the committees as well as in the Water Use Advisory Council meetings. So we do still have that application. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review it. And if you do have questions, obviously, feel free to ask them. And as soon as we do have that quorum back, we'll go ahead and make a recommendation from the council on the official appointment. But again, we definitely want to make sure that people can participate as you want to, and you don't have to be a technical advisor to sit in on the meetings or take part in any of the subcommittees. So thanks for being here. All right.
Right.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I also just want to thank you for participating and for applying for the technical, because I think it's really important. Looks like you've got really good background. Unfortunately, we don't have enough people to be able to formally bring you in, but I just want to say that you look really good on paper, and I understand you participating. So.
He's been able to answer a lot of questions that in our committee meetings, so it's been very helpful.
All right. Any questions or thoughts before we move on? zipping right through this. I think I'm done. I think it's all you.
I don't think I can go that. Hopefully that's one.
Good job, Laura.
I don't think we can go that fast. It is my wife's birthday. She wants me home for dinner, so.
Right.
We will moving right along. Our first committee chair report is from the data collection committee. And I don't know who's going
I'm gonna give it,
Oh.
Brian, I think has a stream restoration project today, so we don't have a long update by any means. We haven't met since our last full meeting here, but we do have our next meeting scheduled for Thursday, September 22nd from 10 to 12. Anyone that's not on the list that would like to be, I'm happy to add you. Given that we're moving into the report preparation mode here, the focus of this meeting will be to discuss findings as far as the next steps in inland lakes works. That's been the focus of our past couple of meetings. So we're looking at drafting language that could perhaps for the next report, look towards securing some funding to allow the committee to continue this work over the next couple of years. In addition to that meeting that we planned, Everett has also been working to connect us with Fugro to get a presentation to the committee, perhaps, if we can, get it scheduled, to look at inland lake bathymetry surveys. And if the method that's used by them can be applicable in Michigan. So that date is to be determined, but hopefully coming soon as well. So that's really all I have.
Thank you, Megan. Any questions for Megan?
Yeah, Megan, I remember when Jim Milne and I were working on the inland lakes and streams stuff for the previous council. Pat Serrano at MSU had done quite a lot of work on not only inland lake bathymetry, but also kind of looking at potential impacts of withdrawals on lakes. And and granted, her research is several years old, but I don't think lake bathymetry has changed in that time so much. And I don't know if she's continued that work, but I wonder if it might be worth it to reach out to her and her grad students and see kind of where that is, and if there's any additional work that's been done or anything that might help to inform that process.
Jim, do you mind if I ask if you have any comments on that? Just because I don't know if this has been discussed on the committee since my time here. Is that something we've revisited lately?
I'd have to go back to my
Okay.
emails, I think. I know Brian Roth at MSU and, yeah, was the lead for the inland lake bathymetry mapping project, but we can follow up with Pat and see if she's still active in that.
And Pat's been active for the last, we want to touch base with her for another times.
Okay, that's a good suggestion.
I'll say here too, I'm new at attending these, so I don't know if I'm overstepping any sort of bounds here, but I know OHM has been working really close with this that tool work lately.
Okay.
There's new bathymetric remote control boat vessels that do in the like bathymetric stuff, so if you wanna talk offline about any of this, things, I'm happy to share knowledge with I know. Our OHM advisor is.
Yeah, thanks, Laura.
Great, Megan, thank you. Next is the models committee. Okay, is Jim Nicholas on?
Yes, I.
All right, good. So Jim, if you have anything to add, I'll start. If you have anything to add, please do.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we had a meeting just recently here in the building in person. Many meeting in person, it was really kind of cool. We had about half the people in person and they were online, but it was just really nice. So we were talking about the aquifer pump test guidance. And that's been a pretty contentious item for us. And Jim and I met with Rena and with Jim Milne, and we worked something out and brought that back to the whole group. And there was a lot of good discussion. It's not all resolved yet, but Jim is going to pull together some key people and see if we can resolve it, because it looks like it actually, the differences are not that much. I think it's something that can be worked out. So we hope to get that worked out after Jim has another meeting. And then we'll be able to advise the council as to what we found. Other things that are coming, I'm in the midst of scheduling meeting with models committee where we want to talk about what our recommendation is going to be for this year's report. And the two main things that we'll be talking about that we've already had presentations here in the council in previous months. But one is the return flow accounting and the downstream accounting. And that one, if you recall, the ability was developed to estimate what actual return flow there would be and translate the depletions downstream. And so a model was created to do that. And it assumed 100% depletion. So if we had 100% depletion in one watershed, that translated all the way downstream. Now there's issues about that, is that the bill is something less than that. But what it did show is that this is the topic that has potential impacts. In other words, that if we translate depletions downstream, it does have a potential effect on water that's available downstream. So it's something that we need to keep looking at. And what I want to do is work out recommendations to what that work will look like and what we might do with that. So we will be discussing that at the next meeting. If somebody isn't on my list of people I send to that normally at Miles May, would like to be in on this, please let me know. You're welcome to attend. The other thing is the stream flow allocation method that's used. And in the current system, there's something that's infamous called the half max rule. And that was just the way that was created so that we got results that made sense. And we calculated depletion within the watershed, the neighboring watersheds, to make sure we weren't getting nonsensical answers. It's actually done a good job of doing that, but a better method has been developed, which has got the really cool name of web squared. You know, scientists, when I work on things, don't necessarily try to think about what's it's going to look like when you're going to use it, but we'll come up with a better name for it if we decide to do something with that. But it is a method that looks very promising. It looks like it's actually better than what we are using. But we need to talk about that in some more detail. So we will discuss this in committee and we'll come back with what a recommendation is from it to the full council. I would hope that at our next meeting, at least can introduce it and have a full recommendation, at least introduce what our thinking is at the next meeting. And I think that's pretty much it. The other things we have, we'll be continuing to work on, or we've already had recommendations through. Jim, do you want to add anything?
No, Dave, you did a good job covering everything. Thanks.
Any questions?
Hearing none, we'll move on to the next committee. Thank you very much, Dave. New Topics Committee was up next. Pat?
That said they didn't have anything to report. I thought I saw something.
I think there was.
You know, if that was last time or this time. I know, I'm hesitant because they're all kind of blending together, but
I don't think you were Jason like that.
One of the groups did it, kind of doing nothing.
Well, we'll get that up, we'll put that on hold and jump to Conservation and Deficiency Committee. And Kelly has a presentation today, and our goal today is to digest this information for information only. We'll be seeking consensus at our October meeting. So if there are many issues that have to be dealt with between now and then, we've got plenty of reading. So.
yeah, and I think that's further down on the agenda, right? So I can just kind of go over.
You want to go through the slides first and then jump to
However
the
you guys
Word
want to do
document in the
it.
presentation or vice versa?
Together. Wherever the chair would like.
It's up to you.
All right, well, we'll
Do
give the committee report first,
Okay.
right? Because I think that kind of leads into.
That's a stage.
Yeah, that sets the stage, definitely. So we continue to meet monthly. We continue the work in talking about the 2020 recommendations, right? So the last recommendations and really taking a look at those best management practices, reviewing them and how we can kind of focus on how climate migration or climate change might impact those different water sectors and how they're planning to adapt to that. The Office of the Great Lakes is anticipating having, being able to issue an RFP funded by the Michigan Great Lakes Protection Fund to match the 50K provided by the Water Use Advisory Council funding. So I think we're waiting for all of these stars to align around that to really be able to move forward with that. But that's really the discussions that we've been having with different water sectors. So they're interested, they need some help facilitating these discussions. And they think adding that aspect of climate migration around that topic has them interested. And we've also talked with the fisheries folks, and they are aquaculture, geez, thanks, folks, totally out of my brain. And they're interested. They were surprised that they were asked to participate. And again, it's a bandwidth issue, it seems like, for everyone. So we, if the funding comes to fruition and we can get all the stars to align, I think that we'll be able to get some best management practices in place for those. We had some of our committee members who met with University of Michigan to really try to find out if there's a potential or projects that would help us develop metrics for measuring water and energy savings around that for water infrastructure projects. So, you know, money is a huge motivator for a lot of folks. So if we can show, here's the actual financial savings to implementing some of these practices, I think, especially in light of inflation and everything, that would be a huge motivator for folks. Next. Excellent. So jumping forward to the 2022 recommendation development, we spent the previous year really looking at a lot of different things. And one of the projects that Jason Walther kind of brought to everyone's attention was like a mobile lab that's used in South Carolina and Florida. And it really pulls in different partners. So it's a state partnership in conjunction with USDA and NRCS and some other groups there, but really being able to address kind of that irrigation efficiency piece and to be able to build like best management practices around the irrigation equipment itself. So we have, when it comes to water use, we definitely have best management practices, but when it comes to the actual equipment, that's kind of what we're looking to build, gain information, be able to teach farmers. And we also included some safety aspects in there, since Jason let everyone know that when it comes to the most dangerous places on the farm, that active irrigation system is very dangerous. And so how do we build in all of those pieces, as well as pull in pieces like funding through that's available through federal grants and federal programs, and really have this be a pivotal point to kind of go through the irrigation systems in the state of Michigan. So we, gosh, I think it was 3 months ago, we submitted our draft proposal to the chairs, and they had some great questions, and we were like, yeah, those are great questions. So we brought it back to our committee. We did some more work on it. Our committee themselves had some great questions. So Abby had some great points that we were able to add. And then I think a couple things we were just talking in different languages that we were able to iron out. And at last week's meeting, they were like, yeah, we think we're good to be able to send this on to the full Water Use Advisory Council. Dr. Dong has worked really closely with Lyndon Kelly because they're very familiar with these programs, and MSU does a lot of work kind of around this. So it makes sense for Dr. Dong to kind of jump into the proposal. So I think everyone got a copy of the text language for our recommendation. And Dr. Dong has put together a presentation to kind of walk us through that text. And then as Brian said, this is for information only today. So we want to make sure if you've got questions or concerns or something that doesn't seem right, or you think we need to you know, make some areas clear. We have a month to be able to take those questions in and to be able to respond and get answers and make changes if we need to before this would be presented then at the next meeting for moving forward. So
Kelly, if I could just ask, make sure I understand. So is it gonna focus on safety around irrigation pivots, or is it broader?
it's much broader than that, but Jason was very pointed in making sure that safety was a part of it. So really, we're looking at, the main focus is efficiency in those irrigation systems, but we also kind of pulled in all of these other little pieces to really have a robust program. So good question.
And will the goal be to look at every irrigation system in the state, or provide a template for people to evaluate?
I'm gonna let him go through this because I think we're gonna answer all of those
Okay.
questions. Nope, great questions though, Dave. Christine, did you?
Yeah, just a quick question. I've noticed driving around, and this is just me not knowing about the best management practices, but when it's 90 degrees out at 2 in the afternoon, that's probably not a great time to be irrigating crops, is it?
That's much better.
There's a number of factors. In part, it's field size. How long does it take for that pivot to rotate?
Okay.
You know, if it's gonna be 4 hours.
Okay.
That's the time that they have.
I asked that maybe from like a layperson's perspective, because it seems like we're losing a lot of water to evaporate, or a lot of that volume to evaporation. And I was curious, I've been watching your committee because I think getting that piece of educating is really important, because a lot of people are a little up in arms about that because they feel like it's wasting water, not watering, because most people, you know, water in the early morning, evening. So anyway, just sharing an observation.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that's what this is hopefully we're trying to address, Christine. So it drives me incredibly insane when I'm going to visit someone and I'm like, this is why people are angry, right? Like, go. So addressing those concerns, and there's a lot of different factors that play into it. So we do have GAMPs, generally accepted agricultural management practices, and we do in their evening, of course, is the best time to water. So, right, but there are some situations where it just isn't possible. And I think part of that educational piece is really helping people to understand, like, maybe we need to put in another well in a separate spigot and separate irrigation lines so that maybe we can avoid some of that. Really, we got to figure out what are the financial trade-offs, right? And that all is kind of built into this recommendation, but thank you for highlighting the reason that.
Well,
we really
that's,
need this.
yeah, it's good to kind of build the connection in for people we're trying to serve. Because, you know, another well in the financial piece of it, we may have to look at the quantity that we're losing, you know, completely lost from the aquifer.
Absolutely. Well, and that highlights one of the challenges that we've got. I mean, because, you know, Michigan, you know, I'm gonna straight up admit it, as much as Michigan agriculture is the best. Yeah, I have to say that. They pay me a bonus based on how many times I say that.
I need on that. What you
We really are, I think, kind of behind in the advancement and modernization of our technology. So it makes it really difficult when you have a situation where you irrigate because you've got a crop need for it, right? So you have, you know, so you have soil that it does not have enough water, the crops don't have enough water. You're basically starting a clock at that point before you get crop damage that can't be undone. And so you have to get all of your water out to replenish those crops in a certain amount of time, you know, to where that's the question of, you know, if you can't get another well, or if it doesn't pencil out financially to do it, you're having to run it at less than ideal times, like middle of the afternoon when you otherwise wouldn't want to do it.
It's a very complicated, like I could throw all sorts of scenarios out there right now, and we could spend a lot of time today on that. But I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Dong and ask Jim if you would pull up his presentation. So everyone should have the text that was sent out, but I think his presentation really helps to walk through that text and to have a good understanding of it. So glad the pressure is on you to make that right, Jim.
Verify, are they seeing the
Yep,
issue extension?
just scroll down a little bit though.
Okay, thanks. Yep, so maybe I'll walk through some background, the importance of irrigation in Michigan. So irrigation in Michigan plays a critical role in the Michigan agriculture. We support a lot of crops like corn, soybean, potato, and fruit and vegetables. And almost 100% fruit and vegetable production in Michigan are under irrigation. So and in 2019, the USDA estimate the Michigan produced about $579 million in fruit and vegetable crops. So irrigation is very important to support these fruit and vegetable productions. The little fun fact is that we are #1 largest producer in US, the asparagus producer in US, and we're third largest apple producer in US. We're number 4 carrot largest producer in US, and we're the leading producer in the world for tart cherry. We are second largest the tomato producer in US. We are 8th largest potato producer in US, but we are the nation's leading producer of potato for chicken process. So,
Potato chips.
and based on the USDA 2018 survey, there are about 827,000 irrigated acres in Michigan, and we have been seeing the trend has been increasing over the past decade. So we expect there will be more irrigated acres in next 5-10 years or in the future, because we are seeing more erratic precipitation. So the farmers are need to water when there's time that we don't get rainfall. So next slide. Just a little background of agriculture irrigation. The water used, the irrigation contributed about 2% of Michigan's total water use in 2015. Irrigation contributed about 39% of Michigan's consumptive water use. Based on the NDR report, agriculture water withdrawal in 2019 was 106 billion gallons of water. The energy consumption for the Senate PV system, and in Michigan, there are about over 90% of irrigation system are the Senate pivot, and the energy consumption for Senate pivot is estimated about the 3.7 million megawatt per year, which contributes about 4% of Michigan's total energy consumption. So we've been estimating how many Senate pivot irrigation system in Michigan there are, and based on the conversation with the number of irrigation dealers, we estimated there are over 8,000 Senate pivot irrigation systems, and at least 1/3 of them are more than 20 years old. So we really need to take a look at especially the older system. If that is not efficient, then we need to retrofit and upgrade the system to make it more efficient. And there are about 10% of irrigation systems which can still use high pressure sprinkler package, and which is energy efficient as low pressure sprinkler package, which is based on USDA census data. Based on the census data, in 2018, we have about 2,300 diesel-powered irrigation system. This is less energy efficient compared to the electric, and it require higher operation and maintenance costs. So there's a number of irrigation systems we need to take a look at to see if there is potential opportunity to convert the diesel to electric, but that is depending on the number of factors and the availability of power and so forth. So that's something we need to take a look at. We need to improve some irrigation management for the specific crop type. So there's each crop type may require different irrigation practice, and maybe one system, your drip irrigation system may be better than center pivot and so forth. We really need to take a look at each crop type and give following the recommendation which system to use. Last one is the adoption of irrigation system tool is lacking. So MST Extension, our program has been promoting the irrigation scheduling program that helps to keep track on how much rainfall they got on their field and look at the soil availability for the plants. And based on the information that helps to when to water and how much to water. So that's something we really need to encourage more irrigators to use it. Next slide. So our subcommittee's recommendation action is to improve irrigation best management practice through on-farm demonstration. We're looking at the evaluating and retrofitting the existing irrigation system, at least 10 system per year, for 3-year total, for this project. And based on the retrofit, we like to measure how much it was improved. So looking at how much water energy use efficiency was improved. And based on the information, we can estimate the potential reduction of the greenhouse gas emission. We can also take a look at the cost savings. So if you retrofit, if you improve it, how much cost the farmers are saving. And so for that's something we can take a look at it. Number 3 will be inspecting irrigation system to ensure the system is properly installed and operating safely. So that's something Jason wanted to mention. Because we're gonna evaluate the irrigation system, I think it makes sense to look at the electronic system, make sure that it's properly ground and so forth. So we can take a look at it too. The last one is demonstrate and promote the irrigation scheduling technology. So that's something we MSU program been encouraging a lot of farmers to use scheduling program. But we also there are a lot of technology out there now, so that's something we can continue to promote it and demonstrate it and the technology in more of the farms, so that we can hope that we can see more Michigan irrigators using this technology to make decision. I had a little box down there. So at the end of this pilot program for 3 years, the committee will be evaluating the program, the outcome, and make decision for next step. And that's something that I know there's a couple industries like irrigation dealers and beef from MDR. They also interested in this continuing this effort. So maybe we can collaborate it on for future works. So we start taking a look at what other state has been done. So the California, the program, they have similar program. It's called SWEEP, State Water Efficiency and Enhancement Program. The program started 2014, and the budget for 2021 fiscal year was $50 million. And this program supports all the irrigation scheduling technology, like weather-based, soil-based, and plant-based. They also support the drip irrigation system installation, converting fossil fuel pumps to solar, wind, electric, natural gas. They support any project that improve energy efficiency. So one is the retrofitting the replacing the pump that is more efficient, converting the high pressure to low pressure, installing the variable frequency drive, the VFD to reduce the energy use, the reducing pumping the number. So that's also, you can get that reduced pump based on the irrigation scheduling, because scheduling helps to determine when to water and how much to water. So any other management practice that save water and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So there's a lot of this program covers a lot of things to support to improve water use efficiency. So South Carolina, Florida, they have the program is called MIM, Mobile Irrigation Laboratory Pilot Project. I know they started with the pilot project, but now it's full program. And this program they go to farms and evaluate their irrigation system and provide recommendation. And what the part of this program is, once the farmer retrofit their irrigation system, they go back and do another evaluation. So they calculate how much it was improved in terms of water saving and energy saving. So so that was pretty big part. And the one of article published in 2020, the district estimate a saving of 500 million gallons of water through this program. So I see there's a lot of good impact on this such program that I think we can, Michigan can definitely get benefit from that. State of Washington, has a program, it's called Irrigation Efficiency Grant Program. They support, the project, they improve on-farm irrigation, that helps to, that helps the salmon population. So, and they're looking for, any project like improving water efficiency, and the project they say about has been impacts to save about 5.7 billion gallons of water. Colorado has a program, it's called Colorado Dairy and Irrigation Efficiency Program. The program started 2015. The budget was $1.1 billion. They fund the project that improve irrigation, the system and efficiency, and each project they funded up to 25,000 per participant. And they estimated about 3,000 MMBTU, and equals to 742,000 pounds of greenhouse gas emission annually saved from their pilot dairy. So that's what other state has been done. So Michigan, we don't have a program, but we've been doing this for throughout the outreach activities. So in Michigan, we've been measuring the flow of the sanitary irrigation system, make sure the flow is what it's supposed to be. If we change, then we make recommendations to change the sprinkler package and so forth. We also monitor the water pressure and make sure the pressure is stay at the optimal pressure level for the irrigation operation. The next slide. We also been doing catching tests. So this is the photo that shows the little white, I guess white things on the photo is the cup. Yeah, the cups that we put it every 10 feet. The cup has to be 3 feet from the ground. And once we set it up, the we call catch can, and then we run the irrigation over there, and then we measure how much volume each cup has. And based on the information, we calculate the irrigation system uniformity. So once we collect the data, we put in this Excel spreadsheet and we report, we type all the numbers, and then this program gives you out the system uniformity coefficient, which is showing the right top corner. In this example, the system uniformity coefficient is 79. And typically we recommend the 85. So if number is below the 85, then we go back and take a look at which area that we can make improvement. So this is about 2 or 3 months ago. We actually done this uniformity testing at one farm down in Three River. So at the top graph shows the uniformity, the data pre-retrofit, so before they upgrade the sprinkler package. The bottom is after they replace the sprinkler package. So as you can see, it's very clear that if the coefficient is lower than 85%, we can definitely improve it by in this example was the replacing sprinkler package. So coefficient was 73 pre-retrofit, and it was improved to the 91 post-retrofit. So think about the water saving. If your goal is applying half-inch application or 1-inch application, if some area gets twice much water, then that's something that something we don't want to be, right? Our goal is 1-inch application. Then we hope that 1-inch application throughout the video. So there's a lot of opportunity that we can save the water, just improving the irrigation system uniformity. We also been using the UAV, also known as drones, to look at the sprinkler pattern, the water pattern from the sprinkler package, and see if we can just detect the faulty sprinkler. So this is one somewhat quicker method than the catch can, but it was effective to find out which part of the sprinkler or which sprinkler has the problem. We also been working at developing this sensor technology to look at the soil moisture at different depth to look at the moisture changes over time. And based on the soil moisture, the data, we we output the irrigation recommendation. So based on the soil, how much water in the soil, and knowing that we can recommend this, how much water they could apply to the field. So that make sure we don't over irrigate it and make sure we don't under irrigate it. So something we also been working at. This is just kind of overview of the technology. So we install the sensor in the field, we collect the data through the cloud website, and we output something easy indicator that anybody can understand. So that gauge, it shows, whether your moisture is green, means that, you don't have to water. If it's close to yellow, then you should water. And we also provide the maximum recommended irrigation amount. So that's something that makes sure the farmer doesn't not over irrigate on their field, so that we can improve irrigation water efficiency. So we have a lot of tools that we've been working on, and we have it here in Michigan, but we just don't have the program yet. So I think it is important to have some state support the program that can utilize all the tools that we have to make more impact on Michigan agriculture irrigation communities. So the expected outcome from this project is it will improve irrigation best management practice. Earlier, Kelly mentioned about we don't have to really detailed information about if it's, for example, if sprinkler package is 5 years old, maybe we should just better place it, or 7 years or something like that. We don't have that detailed information. So we hope that we can provide that those kind of information from the outcome demonstration from this study. So all the information we collect and the result will be help to improve irrigation, the GAMS, and will be helping with the MIP. I know they've been doing the this irrigation system uniformity, so we can definitely help provide more recommendation to them, and also irrigation extension outreach program, MSU. This program will increase the irrigation water energy efficiency and reduce greenhouse gas emission because we're improving energy use efficiency, also minimize environmental impacts. So if we can reduce the over irrigation, then all the nutrient that they apply in the field will more likely stay in the root zone. So make sure that all the nitrate will stay in the root zone, not leaching below the root zone. And this program will improve the crop production because we are helping and make sure they apply at the right time, and also help the efficiency. So it will help the crop production and save their input cost and help on this farm safety. So the budget we are requesting is the full-time research assistant. This person will be coordinating all the meetings with the producers and coordinating with the irrigation safety inspector. And also one thing I want to mention, the Argo from MSUD department, he runs the agriculture energy audit program. And I talked to him about this program. He's really interested in this program, so he's willing to contribute his program into this water use efficiency. So if you have a cooperative farmer who's interested in this evaluation, then he's gonna bring his crew energy auditor to this farm and do the energy auditing together. So we have the whole system, irrigation system, plus the whole farm energy audit together, so the farmer can benefit on the water and energy for his farm. But this research center will be coordinating all the meetings and bring energy auditor and irrigation safety and safety inspector, and he's gonna do the system evaluation. He or she will do system evaluation and write a report, write a recommendation. And this person will be helping to apply for some cost share program. So we have about up to $5,000 from this program to support. If there's more than $5,000, then we need to support for the producer. Then this person can help to defining the paperwork for through USD and RCS there. So there's some more than just this person will be doing more than just evaluation. So he's going to help the whole process to get the retrofit And then once, they do the upgrade, and this person will go back to the same site and do another evaluation, and see how much it was in improvement. You're requesting also, the undergrad student for assisting, the catch can test, irrigation mobile lab, the travel, visiting each farms, and retrofit cost share programs, like I mentioned, the up to $5,000 per person, that's what we're supporting. So this program will be, for 3 years. The potential partner, the timeline, is, so the first year, when the program start, we'll be developing programs. So, this includes what kind of question and information we need to get before we start the program. So, all the, how, for example, the age of the irrigation system, the brand, what type of things, so and that's what we started doing it, and then we started the evaluation for 3 years. And after evaluation, we'll be continuing doing irrigation scheduling. So we not just change the sprinkler package and call it done, but we're gonna walk through the growing season by installing the sensors on their farm and help them to make better decision on when to water, how much to water. So it's just more than just upgrading the infrastructure or the system, irrigation system. We're gonna help them do better management and practice for crop production. So, yeah. The potential partners are the MEAP and USDA-NRCS and the commodity groups and Michigan Irrigation Association and utility companies and consumer energy in Indiana, Michigan Power. I have talked to the consumer energy, and they are also really interested in this program, this potential program. They'd be happy to send one of their the technician to come out to measure how much energy is producing, and measuring the energy usage of center pivot. So they're willing to support by providing tools or their people for this program. Michigan Ag Business, so irrigation dealers and contract production companies. We have talked about this with some irrigation dealers over at the potato field day. They're pretty interested. So I think if you have really good management practice developed, so good recommendation, then they will start. We can bring more people to come to the program, and they can make more impact on water saving and energy saving, and the farmers that really partners. So with that, do you have any questions? Yeah.
That's very good, very interesting. Like it's very well thought out. The questions I have is that, do you have any feel for what's our potential to gain by doing this? So for example, if you said there's X% of high pressure nozzles out there, if we replace those, we could get a certain amount of savings. But there's X percentage of people that aren't irrigation scheduling yet. That could like also what's the feel for what we can do?
So I can't really speak to about changing to high pressure, low pressure. Maybe I can do some study, some literature review on it, see how much we can save it. But irrigation scheduling, we are improving water efficiency. So it really depending on the year, right? Whether we have wet year or dry year. But just based on 2021, the study that we done with the funded by USDA-NRCS, there's good potential about saving for that year, specific year, saving about 1 inch application for the corn and soybean. So I think there is really good opportunity, but it's really depending on the year by year.
Sure.
If it's dry year, then we might.
Well, do you have a feel for example, percentage of farmers that nozzles, percentage that are not using irrigation stuff? Do you have any sense for that?
So I think high pressure now, what maybe do
Yeah, it was in there.
Yeah.
It was in
Yeah, so it was 8,000 and change, total irrigation systems, about 10% of those use high pressure systems, and about a third of them don't use irrigation scheduling.
Like four. It's like,
The question I've been.
and we were pretty excited at the, being able to look at what other states have done and the huge numbers that they're able to save, right? And so we're fortunate. We have Rachel Proctor, who sits on our committee, and from consumers, and really being able to meld those two things together, right? So that especially if you can show farmers, like, here's the energy savings, right? So the water savings is what we're after, but again, money is a huge motivator. So being able to pair those two things together and to really pull some exciting projects that they have, and programs and grants, and being, and farmers follow greatness. So first of all, they're kinesthetic learners. So having a mobile lab out where people are hands-on learning, looking at things, they learn it better, right? And then they follow greatness. So I know we had a few people say, oh, well, 10 a year, that doesn't seem like a lot. But if you hit 10 different farms, you do one irrigation pivot system with them, and they see the cost savings to one, it's pretty easy for them to do the math and multiply it over the number of pivots that they have, what their potential savings are, right? And so it's really, and if we can target some of those maybe high profile farmers that people look to, right? They learn from greatness and they follow greatness. So if they see someone else, they're doing this, well, we're behind, then we need to be doing it as well. So kind of leveraging some of those cultural pieces in here as well. Obviously, they're not written in here, but knowing how they work helps to make sure that this would be a project that would be successful. If that makes sense.
And I think that's too how you can leverage some of the identified partners, so commodity groups, farm groups, agribusinesses, irrigation companies, if they're able to come forward and say, we're working with this program, or this is the kind of result that you can get. Another thing I was thinking about is, so NRCS, we've got obviously, a practice for Michigan and a fund code for getting cost share for improving irrigation efficiency. But the people who get almost all the money for that and where all the technical expertise is in seed corn country. I hear probably every month a complaint from somebody up in Saginaw Valley area growing vegetables who can't get any assistance because the staff up there don't know how to use these programs. They don't have the expertise. They can't recommend an engineer. If they had a program like this to look at to say, hey, here's an example of what I need to do, and here, and have more detail to lay it out. I mean, I think that could really improve their chances of getting funded and being able to get that cost share, which could mean the difference between do I do this or not.
Any more questions for Kelly or for Dr. Dawn?
This is Steve Kreider with Consumers Energy.
Steve?
Hey, quick question. On the sensor that you have out in the field, if you want to skip down to that slide, I think it was around 15 or so. Don't quote me on that though. 16, that was close. It looks like you're looking at root zone. Is there any application where you're looking deeper to see what is recharge? So you could see as you're irrigating how much might actually be going back towards aquifer recharge versus strictly, basically water we pumped up, sprayed on the field, and then ended up being recharged to the aquifer.
That's a good question. That is potentially possible. I'm currently working with one of my PhD students to quantify that. So because the sensors are measuring the percentage, and I think at this point, to quantify how much water, the volume of water is leaching or going below the root zone is not well understood yet. So it's in the process. I'm currently doing some laboratory study with the PhD students. So hopefully next year I have a little better idea of using the sensors to quantify the recharge for the retail flow.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you may have said this, but for the funding proposal, is this something that you were planning to put in, like the Water Use Advisory Council report to be funded through this committee, or is this, yes?
Yep, that's why we're presenting it today. And that way, anyone who has questions, and maybe we've answered people's questions right now, but they want to go back and relook at the text and that kind of stuff. So we're offering, we have a whole month before we bring it back next month and say, okay, full council, is this a recommendation we can provide in our report to the legislators at the end of the year?
And then follow-up question, do you have like any strategies or sort of thoughts around how exactly you'll work with the GAMS committees to implement some of these things? Or meet?
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. It's just that Kelly and
all
Dr. Cog and I all sit on the irrigation GAMS committee. So yes, there absolutely is a way to work with them.
And we understand that people are asking for this information, right? Like this would help us move the ball forward. And that's why I think it's been important. We've all had input into this and like helping to develop the recommendation. Laura had some great questions. I think Lyndon Kelly, who I think I saw him on there, also is part of that. So it's kind of the same group of people, just trying to make sure that we keep our hands on that ball and keep it moving forward. So.
Well, and I don't know that we changed the structure of the GAMS themselves or add GAMS. It would be technology that would assist in implementing those. So it would change the recommendations within the GAMS, but not the GAMS.
For some of the MSU extension agents from other regional offices around the state, having the opportunity to come in and hear the same presentation so they can take that information back out to the various regions across the state.
So Lyndon and I have been going around the state and do the presentation at Superior, but Oceana County last week. The week before we were in Southwest Michigan. So we can easily promote this program and share that feature with the producers. Yeah.
Marilyn Dinglin, who heads up MSU Extension, was also part of this committee in the group. And so she was really excited to be able to share that with the educators across the state. So exactly how they would share that information, they kind of have their own structure right now where they have expertise leads on certain things. So like one person may be housed in southeastern Michigan, and that's like their group of people that they cover, but they're an expert on XYZ topic. So when that topic needs to be talked about anywhere else in the state, they leverage that person's expertise to share that across the state. My guess is that they would do something similar, but I don't know what that structure looks like, and it's not in the proposal since we don't know when and if these will be funded. So getting to that minute of a detail, we didn't really want to tie people's hands, especially if organizational structures change over the next few years. So.
You mentioned upgrading systems. What does that mean?
So we kind of wrote down the things that we take a look at for upgrading. It's replacing high pressure with the low pressure, upgrading the existing sprinkler package. For example, it's 7 years, or maybe change that to the improved sprinkler package.
When you say package, you just mean the nozzles?
It's the little nozzle or the pressure and anything that relates to that, the nozzle, the area. And
there's like a bunch of pieces that fit together in there, and there's screens in there and washers and stuff. So it's just the whole piece.
And then I think you mentioned that there might be like $5,000 available eventually. How much of that cost would that offset? I mean, is a $5,000 package so we don't pay for, or is it a $50,000 thing that's only 10% that will come?
So just two case study we done and, it cost about $3,000-4,000 to replace that, and, to buy the sprinkler package, just buy, and you need to hire someone to replace it, you probably doesn't have time, so there's some labor.
For a pivot.
Yeah.
Good questions. Doug?
So just on this, two things on really the cost that was put up here, the irrigation mobile lab, is that to actually buy the lab? To have it?
So we saw the, South Carolina, Florida has a dedicated trailer, just enclosed ship trailer, has all the equipment, tools just be ready. So that when they go on each farm, they're just ready to do all the evaluation. So I thought that was really excellent idea, which we don't have it here. So that's something that had to be called the mobile lab, but it's pretty much trailer with the functional sensors.
So that kind of goes into my next level question, that as a council, if we said, okay, we need $600,000 to do this study, can we specifically go to MSU and also purchase a lab for them through this council, or does it have to go to an RFP and out to the streets? How logistically does that work?
From implementation.
I
I mean, I see a couple potential ways that could work. I mean, it could work in somewhat similar way that the funding has come in for the other programs, which is the legislature appropriates it to Eagle, who then writes an RFP or uses their existing agreement with MSU. Or, if the legislature is feeling less generous about their purse strings, this is also something that could be put together as a potential grant funding project, in which case then, a match that either the state would provide or MSU would provide, or or associated groups, like if you got, commodity groups and irrigators together and said that they were going to provide a certain percentage match, that, I think there's a number of different ways to be able to go after that funding.
Question.
Anybody else online have any questions?
Yeah, my hand's been up for a while. It's Jim Nicholas. Thank you for a really excellent presentation. I have one suggestion and one question that's sort of related. The suggestion is Energy Co-op, Great Lakes Electric, along the west coast of Michigan, where there's a lot of agriculture. They may be interested also, even though they're not big like consumers or DTE, they are regionally important. The second, or the question is anyone looking at demand forecasting for irrigation in Michigan?
I don't have good data to support, but what's from just conversation with the producers and from the meetings, from different meetings, I see there is more need, especially for the specialty crop, like apples. I know they are changing their the planting system to the high density from the traditional ways. So they've been putting out an irrigation system. They're looking for irrigation to water to their high density planting system. That's one example. I know the blueberries commodity, they also been really struggle with this. Sometimes they just don't get rainfall. So they're looking for some more irrigation on their crops. So that's just something I can share, but I don't have the statewide data that I can confidently say.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned a group, and I'm sorry, it was a little bit hard for me to hear you. Can you tell me the name of that group again?
The electric co-op.
Oh,
It's Great Lakes Energy. Great Lakes Energy. I'm in Oceana County, and that's the major electrical company in Oceana County, which is asparagus capital of the world.
thank you for that plug.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else? I can't see whether there are any other hands up. Not seeing any. I will tell you that next month
If there's no one online, I was just gonna ask one more question.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, all the different states that you looked at, what the pieces were that you took from other programs that you thought worked really well in Michigan? That makes sense, or did you kind of,
We kind of took all of them. So everything that he reviewed, we have like some of those pieces from all of them in there, right? Like which ones work best for farmers. We had, no, we have so many different meetings and so many different speakers brought in because really we want to know what's out there. Where are their roadblocks? Where are their pitfalls? And how do we design a system that maybe, we learn from their mistakes pretty much, right? And try to spend our money wisely and being able to encapsulate all of that, but still be able to have a product at the end, right? To be able to meet our goals. So I think that was why you kind of listed all of the different things from each of the states that were kind of big aha things for us that we pulled from.
Very good presentation. Thank you. We will hopefully have a forum next month. And we'll be seeking consensus on this issue. If anybody has further questions or concerns, please contact Kelly between now and then.
And I don't know if Emily's on. Emily, did you want to add anything? Sorry.
No, I don't have anything else to add. I think this was great. Thank you, Young Suk, for such a great presentation. Very thorough.
Thank you. Next up, Implementation Committee.
Well, we did meet, September 1 and kind of went through and there was a spreadsheet that Eagle shared with us online, when we went through this meeting. We have not seen that, a hard copy yet. But it kind of distributes or showcases how they could potentially see a roadmap spending that $10 million over the next 5 years. So it'd be kind of nice to dive into that just a little bit more. It was reminded that the costs are all estimated, so there's a little bit left over in their budgeting of the items. I think it comes in at $950 million, so we have about $500,000 just kind of left to maybe move some of the maybe overages. So that was kind of one of the things that was discussed and reviewed, as I say, just for information only. There was also some discussion as far as which recommendations can be addressed through existing contracts, which ones will require RFPs. They're still continuing to look into that, and also kind of assign a priority to what recommendations could be addressed sooner than later. So there was a few homework items that Eagle had after that meeting, and it hasn't really been that long ago. So, you know, we're just kind of waiting at this point for our next meeting as to when we start getting some of that information to be able to sit down and go through it. I'd say we'll probably need another meeting in a month or so in order to keep that moving.
Yeah, and part of that is because Eagle needed to get the authorization to be able to officially share the spreadsheet and those numbers with us. So we kind of got to look at them. They were draft.
Yeah.
And James, if you're still on, I know you had said that you needed to take that up to the director to make sure that, you know, those numbers match up with what Eagle's got in its budget. And that all of those RFPs, as well as the existing agreements that they have with MDART and with MSU, are sufficient to be able to cover the things that we know that MSU and MDART, excuse me, and MDART can cover.
Yeah, so this is James. Unless Christina has heard differently, we're assuming that at the next meeting, the implementation committee, hopefully we'll have a document we'll be able to share with everyone. We'll share it with possibly the entire council before then. As was mentioned, we're checking off with a couple of different departments, kind of procedurally where we might be able to use existing contracts. But I think it is very consistent with the recommendations of the Water Use Advisory Council. You know, from our discussion, we didn't hear any, you know, gasps or, you know, what are you doing, you know, moving that money over there. It seemed to be, you know, kind of following the intent of the recommendations very closely. Sometimes we maybe had lowballed what we thought something would cost, things like, you know, stream gauges and ongoing kind of maintenance of those. So But again, we'll be able to share that widely, I believe, within the next month here.
And just two more things kind of beyond that. There was some just discussions about what would be nice for future full council meetings, and that's to have real world presentation scenarios, basically, is what is going on out there in the field, and what are some of the problems that people are facing, so that we can have a better idea as a full council as to what are the problems that we're actually trying to solve. So that's, it was just kind of kicked out there as a potential future, maybe directions that we could have presenters come in and. And then I know Jim Milne will go through about the SSRs, but I mentioned it last time is maybe we need to modify that 10-day requirement. As we discussed this a little bit more in the implementation committee, there was a discussion that maybe the 10-day clock starts once it's determined that the application is administratively complete. I know there was a comment that was fed back. What does administratively complete mean, and who is the entity that determines when it is complete? I would be under the assumption it would be Eagle that would make that determination, but I don't know how else that happens internally with you guys. But that was a discussion that was brought up, or a follow-up that I think, if we're going to go down that path, we need to address and work on that.
Yeah, there was further discussion in the committee meeting regarding the Ssr timeliness, and one suggestion was made to have do a deeper dive into some of the reasons why some SSRs are significantly later than the 10 business day deadline. Water use staff would be happy to participate in that discussion. If there are particular problem files, bring those to our attention and we can discuss specific files, keeping the names out, but otherwise we could talk about the full spectrum from the slam dunks to the complicated reviews or ones that are held up for various reasons, and discuss why some of these things are being delayed. But if there are specific problem files, let us know, and then we can work that into the presentation.
I particularly love that idea because it helps me to understand, like, what are the set of criteria that you guys are looking at? What are the roadblocks that you're facing to some of these things? And really, like, are there things we need to do, right? Like, listening to some of these kind of real world presentations, I think would help me to be able to understand, do we need to do something with that 10-day period, right? And what are the implications of doing that? Where right now I'm like, I don't really know, right? And just changing it because we have some that are outside that box, I feel like I wouldn't be able to completely get behind because I don't know what the implications might be. But being able to learn from these guys, like, here are the things we're facing. Here are the situations that make these, like, not slam dunks, to Jim's words, really, I think would help me to be able to be more participatory and have a better understanding of what it is we're doing.
Thank you. Any more questions for Doug?
Okay, one addition to my report. I forgot to mention that in the meeting that I'm scheduling, one of the other topics we want to cover is to create the technical work group and help oversee the creation of a Michigan Hydrologic framework. So if you read that full proposal, that's kind of a key thing that we wanted. We would bring in expertise as needed, but we'll have four that's kind of the whole thing. So I'm thinking as we create it out of the model today, so he's interested in that. We'll figure out what other expertise we might like that. So we'll be ready to go with minutes.
I wanted to mention one thing. So before this meeting started, I didn't recall seeing the text of our recommendation go out with all of the meeting stuff. And Brian, you said that you had remembered reading it, but I think that was just in an email from our group to the chairs, because I was able to go back and find Sherry's email and it's not in there. So we made an assumption today that everyone watching had that text and they don't. So we need to make sure they get that.
Yeah.
So the PowerPoint slides, file and the Word document summary wrap will both, they'll be distributed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, report on our report status update. Laura, I don't know if you want to comment on that or anybody else.
Yeah. So at our last meeting, I said that I would look back through our previous minutes and notes and see what we had already come up with for recommendations, because I don't want to make people have to reinvent the wheel in terms of recommendations that have already been made. I kind of immediately ran into a brick wall though, because with all the changes that have come to the website, most of the links on the Water Use Advisory Council website are broken. So I did go back through my emails and found what I could, and I don't think it's a complete list. So the recommendations that have been brought before the council have been finalized, approved, all those things, is a pretty small list that I could find. So I've got the one from the models committee on index flows that you've looked at index flows and do not want to update them at this time, but still want to keep reviewing them every 5 years. And then we've also got the recommendation that was approved from the implementation committee to actually remove 2 of the recommendations from the 2014 report. And that would be to make the watt registration number a required field in well logic, and to remove the process for checking the compliance of as-built well construction with the watt registration as an automated process, because we had heard from Eagle on both of those. Their reasoning made sense, and so we brought that to the council, and they decided to remove those recommendations rather than move forward on them. If anybody else, if any of your committees have made recommendations that have been approved that I have missed, let me know, and I'll dig back through and try to find them, and hopefully if Chris and Christine and I can work together and make sure that that previous minutes and notes are posted to the website, and that we've got a complete picture of it, then I can make sure that we've got those existing recommendations already in place, because I did promise that I wouldn't make you guys rewrite all of those for the 2022 report if you've already submitted them. So I want to make sure to stick to that promise. And then the other part of the report, obviously, is going to be a lot of the work that all the committees have been doing, implementing the 2020 piece, and work that Eagle has been doing, and a lot of the sort of back end, updating and reporting and creating those guidelines and mechanisms for how this program operates. So we'll make sure to include that in the 2020 draft as well.
Still a lot to do before the end of the year. Yeah.
So can I ask, is there anybody who is aware of a recommendation that your committee has made that I did not capture? I know that there's some in the works, but any that have done? Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Jim Milne, you're up next.
Okay, well, good afternoon. This is the program update for Eagles Water Use Program. I'll begin by demonstrating how you can identify water management area boundaries in the online water withdrawal assessment tools interactive map user interface. How you can find out their current status of stream flow depletion availability. Then I'm going to share calendar year 2022 to date metrics. I'm also going to show a map of water management areas where Eagle has been collecting miscellaneous stream flow measurements, and then finally I'll answer any questions. I give a shout out to Andy LeBaron for this next section here. So this will be actually demonstrating how we've at least partially addressed one of the 2020 recommendations in the council report. So the Gis Identify Tool isn't apparent or advertised to the users, so it's somewhat hidden. It works like a typical identify or info tool seen in many interactive GIS maps. It's used to display information about a geographic feature seen on the map. For the water management areas, it can prove useful and perhaps interesting information about their status, but it doesn't directly give the full story about proposed withdrawals assessment results. Requires some explanation of what it is and an understanding of how it's used in the tool, which we'll remind you of at the conclusion here. So this is a screenshot of the water withdrawal assessment tool's user interface. So you can always tinker and explore within the tool without registering any withdrawals. To use the water management area status feature, open the interactive map either by clicking on this top map link, or you can zoom in on the map. And how to find the location of your water withdrawal, there's a search tool where you can search, locate by address, place name, or on the map, or you can enter the latitude, longitude coordinates. Once you've either zoomed in far enough manually using the plus button in the upper left corner, or the scroll wheel on your mouse, or you've entered a location to zoom into the map, the water management area boundaries appear. That's these brown squiggly polygon boundaries. Those delineate the boundaries of each water management area. Then you click or tap on the map layers heading in the accordion menu on the lower right. Then you want to click or tap on the word watersheds in the map layers to highlight it. Now, wherever you click or tap on the map, a small info box will pop up showing the water management ID number, the original modeled index flow value from the tool, water management area / stream name, the larger watershed basin, stream classification, stream temperature classification, and the original amounts of stream flow available. That's based on the tool's original estimate. Those values are in gallons per minute. Note that the tool originally applies a 50% safety factor to its original estimates of index flow and stream flow available in zones A, B, and C. In other words, only half of the original predicted flow is available for use. That's until you get a site-specific review, and at which point that 50% safety factor is removed, making 100% of that index flow available, subject to revisions during the index flow review. So the revised value may come back lower than, the same as, or higher than your tool's original estimate. The lower box there, where it says current ABC line, those are the current real-time amounts of stream flow depletion available in each zone. The highest zone, A, B, or C, with a positive number indicates the current zone status of the tool. So in this case, it still has 23 gallons per minute left available in zone A for that watershed. And if you wanted to know the total, you'd add up those numbers for A, B, and C to tell you how much total stream flow is available before you reach the point where an adverse resource impact is likely. A negative number in any of those zones means that that water management area has been depleted past that zone boundary by prior registrations or pending site-specific reviews. So in this particular example, it's been depleted out of zone A, and so it's in zone B with 147 gallons per minute left in zone B, the total of 147 plus 525, where you get to the zone D adverse resource impact. If you see negative numbers in all three zones, then you have a water management area that's in zone D where there's a potential adverse resource impact. So now for the rest of the story. When viewing this information, it's important to keep in mind that the gallons per minute of available stream flow depletion is not an intuitive number or a target to shoot for. The stream flow depletion for a withdrawal is of course calculated by the tool's predictive amount for a specific scenario. It's a custom calculation. A specific withdrawal can have vastly different stream flow depletion amounts predicted for different water management areas, depending on multiple factors, including the geology, the distance from the well to the stream, etc. And the result of a withdrawals assessment isn't just determined by the available stream flow depletion in the home water management area or by one water management area, but any of the adjacent water management areas can dictate the tool's results. So, for example, an adjacent water management area may be depleted or more restrictive. That would be the controlling factor. And finally, if there's a site-specific review required, these results are subject to change upon the intervention of the Eagle staff doing the site-specific review. So when you get all said and done, tools will display the results. You can click the review report to see how the results derived from the water management area's current zone status. When you look at, this is the report generated by the tool. It's not a registration receipt. In the debit and watershed line, that first number there, that's the water management area ID number. Followed in parentheses, that's the stream flow depletion calculated in gallons per minute for that water management area. So in this case, there are two water management areas that the tool is predicting to be depleted by the proposed withdrawal.
So Jeff, does somebody have to ask for that? Will they get that? If they register, will they automatically get that? They have to ask.
You can run the tool and yeah. So if you run the tool for that results page, if you click that view report button there, that's going to generate this water withdrawal assessment report.
Get it without registries.
Correct. Yep. So if you get that, you don't like the results, you can tweak it, rerun the tool again. If you're still failing, then there's the button to request a site-specific review by Eagle. So hopefully that makes sense. Andy, are you still online to answer any questions?
Yes, I am.
That was pretty complicated, so maybe this would be a good time to pause and ask if there are any questions regarding this part of the presentation that Andy could help with.
How many producers would you say no to, or drillers or whomever consultant know to put that button to look for that information?
I don't think it's very well known.
Right now.
Yeah.
I never delved into that.
Right.
So.
Well, that was, Andy brought that up in the staff meeting, what, a week or two ago, so.
It might be useful to add another, I don't know how easy it is to do a paragraph.
And I think the problem is actually, Jim did a good job of going through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But if somebody just clicks on it, and you see these numbers, they're not gonna know what happens. So there needs to be something to explain.
I was thinking the same thing. Andy, thank you for those slides. Thank you. I would love to have some sort of an article that I could put out in our newsletter with those slides, like to help people understand that, right? Like, I want to be a vehicle to educate for this, for you guys. So, since the work has already been done with screenshots and all that kind of stuff, if there's a way to convert that, with some text, in an article, I would love to put that out. help people understand what all of that is. I learned a lot in the last few minutes, so thank you.
Yeah, that would be a great outreach opportunity, so we'd be happy to work with you. Or if you want to,
Yeah, absolutely. We'd like to
Any
be able to
other-
too.
any other
Or we have to go
organizations
help.
out there.
I think if you could get the MDR director to share that with the other commodity groups, that it's available, you'd probably be surprised at how many people would jump at sharing that with their group.
Yeah,
Manageable piece, yeah.
Yeah, and we can share that too, because we've got the list of groups that are participating with them, with MDR too. The question I had is regarding the current values. Are those automatically updated by the system as registrations are put into the system, or does that have to be done manually by staff?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but the tool is drawing on the transactions table, so that should be real time. Is that right, Andy?
Yep, that's right. It's real time, meaning that you could click it 1 second and get a different answer the next second if someone has registered a withdrawal.
Thank you.
Yes. That's another caution that if you pass, you may want to get your registration printed right away. Don't let it sit because somebody else may beat you to it, and then there's not enough water available when you do come back.
Yeah, if it's possible to add that into this article, I think that would be helpful, because I know even just in the last year, I've had several people like, my well guy went in and looked at this, and so I purchased this property, and then we waited 6 months for him to put the well in, and then it was like, then we couldn't do it. So I think having that in the article helps just to share that educational piece.
I think there's gonna be a lot of context that needs to be in that article.
Possibly.
Well, that was my,
Since we can't write it.
well, that was my skeleton.
Yeah.
Fully understand it's.
Oh, yeah,
No,
absolutely.
but that's what's important about this article.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Context.
yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, if it's well thought out, though, I think it'd be really useful.
Yes.
So let's have some further conversations, and Andy will be happy to work with you.
Oh, did you hear that, Buzz?
Yeah.
You okay, Andy?
So Andy, I'll throw one back at you. We've got really good writers on our media team. If you want to send them some rough, stuff, they can craft it together into something pretty that you can review. I'm saving you from the bus.
Just pulled you out from under the wheel.
Still attractive.
I'm still the tractor. We still have to review it and approve it, but we can at least help with, language crafting if that's wanted.
Sure,
There's
sounds
no
good.
further question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no response from me.
It's gone.
Okay, moving from the warm and fuzzy outreach to the world of compliance. So here are our
I think,
metrics.
Jim, I think Todd's got his hand up there before you get on to the next subject.
Okay, Todd, go ahead. I can't see on my screen.
Yeah, first of all, that's really, what you presented there is very, very helpful. It's definitely a change from what it was before, and with all the time that I've spent on it, I never stumbled across that. So I think it's really helpful to see all that. We do a lot of presentations to growers, probably 24 a year or so. And I know that they're really all over the MyWatt, and this would be really helpful for them to be able to see. I'll just start including it in part of our presentation when we walk it through. That may be a good way to get it grassroots real quick too. So if you don't mind sharing a couple of those slides, Andy, I'll just put them right into my presentation with compliments from Andy LeBaron. The other couple things that I had, maybe just as suggestions, some of the confusion, if we keep removing the 50% safety factor all the time, as soon as there's an SSR, maybe just remove it from all of them now, period. That would eliminate some confusion, since it's just a safety factor that goes away anyways. And then the second suggestion would be the flow is given in cubic feet per second, but the depletion numbers are given in gallons per minute. And there's no indication of a change in unit. right? I mean, it says CFS under the flow, but there's no unit given under the A line, B line, C line. So for those that don't know the conversion factor, that could be a point of confusion as well. Those are just suggestions, but overall, this is really good news, and I'm excited that you guys pointed that out today. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Todd. Anybody else with their hand up?
Something that I can see.
Ross? Good, Jim.
All right. So moving on to some of the annual metrics. So this is the time frame, calendar year to date, so January through August, or September 2nd. So during that period, we have 128 compliance communications, which included 13 after the fact registrations. So that's where previously unregistered withdrawal was able to be registered after the fact because there's enough stream flow available to register it. Sent out 9 compliance communications requesting information on missing pump information. So when we have a well log, but there's no pump capacity recorded, contacting the property owner and the driller, if we know who the driller is, to request the pump information. 103 amended registrations. So those are cases where the withdrawal was put into operation differently than what was authorized originally by either the tool or a site-specific review. But there was enough stream flow to authorize the as-built, as-operated withdrawal characteristics. And then 3 installation verifications. So that's where we contact the property owner. It's not apparent from our desktop review whether in fact they installed the withdrawal that was previously authorized. So we contact property owner seeking verification that, yeah, they did install the withdrawal, or if not, if it's past an 18 months, then that withdrawal registration expires and we can credit that stream flow depletion back, make it available for use by somebody else. 15 first violation notices were issued. 9 second violations were noticed, sent out. So that's second VN if they don't come back into compliance within a reasonable time frame after sending out the first violation notice. We send out a second violation notice and reiterate what the violation is and how to come back into compliance.
Are those all very similar? Are they like all different kinds of violations?
All the same,
They're all the same.
unregistered withdrawals. So I'm finding withdrawal that there's either based off of like their MDR reporting that I could see, or if I'm finding a well off and a new well that was installed and it's not registered.
So that's when we do, when Hannah or some of the other staff do what we call a compliance review. So they compare the well logs that are on file in WellLogic to the large quantity withdrawal registrations, to the water use reporting data that's sent into MDR over to Eagle for other water use sectors. Frequently, things don't match up.
Just in addition to this, do you have any idea of how many registrations were not installed, lapsed registrations over time?
I could get that though.
So if someone receives, I'm sorry, if someone receives a letter that says, hey, you registered this, then the well was installed, but it was installed deeper or whatever, and then they didn't go back and rerun it, that letter, where does that?
Compliance,
That would be the amended registration.
Okay.
Revised,
Trying to understand.
revised registration.
so if it won't pass though, it will get a violation. So
Oh,
if
okay.
the changes are so big that it like depletes so much more.
When your letter says, I did it for you, later,
Yeah.
and you're still good, then that,
That would be the revised registration.
okay.
So Jim, on the violation notices in the second, of seconds, a subset of that current 15, or are they from like last year that they didn't answer last year, so I got the second.
They get 30 days to respond to the first one. If they didn't respond to the first one, they're getting a second one.
So it's probably subset.
Some of them are, but I think 3 of them were from last year too.
Is your question though, it takes a first violation before you get a second?
Right. I was just trying to get there. That's saying that, 6 out of 15 didn't respond within 30 minutes.
And then the final category are the complaints, so that could be water level drops and new irrigation systems, which may or may not be authorized. And if we receive multiple complaints for the same operation, they're only gonna be listed once on that complaint total. Anything else you want to add on that score, Hannah? Okay. Moving on then, for the same time period, January through the beginning of September, 13 pre-screening reviews for public water supplies were passed. 6 in Zone A, 5 Zone B, 2 Zone C, and 1 was replacement of existing baseline capacity. We didn't have any pre-screening reviews denied. So those are pre-screening reviews that WRD does for equal drinking water division. So it's the equivalent of a site-specific review, but for a proposed public water supply. And one of the pre-screening reviews was retracted by the applicant. In the same time period, Andy issued 6 Part 327 permits. So those are for newer increased withdrawals over the 2 MGD.
Question on that baseline replacement, what would go in, why would you need that? What do they?
Well, replacement of baseline capacity is authorized under existing baseline capacity is authorized under the statutes that we just record that differently. It's not technically a zone A, B, or C because it's
She's asking.
just.
Like, is it, you're just like
Oh.
redoing it, or what's the reason for?
You're replacing a well.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, those, they have to have the ID in order to get the permit.
and also that one. So if you.
Or you had a surface water withdrawal.
Yeah.
Okay, during the time frame January through the end of August, we had 238 withdrawals authorized by the Water Withdrawal Assessment Tool, and another 99 that were authorized by SSRs. Of those SSRs, we had like I said, 99 were authorized, 5 were denied, 12 were retracted by the applicant, and 5 are still pending at the time of those numbers were pulled. Timeliness metrics. So the statutory deadline is 10 business days. We were able, during that time frame, we were able to get 56% of that done in 10 business days. And the average number of business days from receipt to the completion was 12 business days. Top graph is the average number of business days over time. And note that for 2022, by request, we've shifted from doing calendar year July to July instead of going on a calendar year basis. The previous years are all July to July program year. And the bottom graph is the percentage that we're done within the 10 business days.
Jim, I just want to clarify, all of those are calendar year. I was able to update them.
Yeah, thank you, Clay. So yeah, that's correction that's been retrofitted now. So these are all calendar year basis, not program year. Okay, this map shows in blue, the highlights are the water management area boundaries where these are water management areas where water use assessment staff have been out collecting miscellaneous stream flow measurements, and the numbers are the stream flow measurements in cubic feet per second.
Quentin kills me.
I am, it's not.
Okay, so.
I'm like, oh, I should have brought my glasses. Thanks for helping, Jim.
And miscellaneous stream flow measurements, so those are,
What are the numbers?
those are the stream flow measurements in cubic feet per second. And those are one-time measurements, they're not, so they're not string gauges that give you a continuous stream flow measurement. These are Eagle staff go out and do a one-time stream flow measurement on the transect.
I guess what's the significance why are you seeing that?
So, nothing changed because the depleted water management area map. And so it didn't really change between last month and this month. And on that map, we tell you that we're gonna go out and take these stream flow measurements. So this is kind of my way of showing that we're keep doing it. Keep going out there, we're doing things. We're trying. I'm not looking this up.
Information, Hannah, like, how do you come back and go, okay, well, we've got these measurements, what are they used for?
That's a really good question. I'm
Hey,
gonna-
So you want to jump in there?
Well, without the perspective of precipitation, it could be easily taken out of context, right? Really is of no value.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it needs to be related to something else in this gauge and to interpret it. And then it needs to, so it's only one piece of information. If I self this.
Yeah, a lot of.
Yeah,
times we-
so if I could
Go
jump
ahead.
in. Our plan here is to visit these watersheds throughout the summer and the low flow months, as well as the wetter months, that we can actually get a flow measurement and compare them to the index flow value for that particular watershed. A lot of the time, we're trying to get as near as to the mouth of the watershed as we can. In some cases, we can't. So, right now we're in the process of collecting as much data and being able to analyze it. And I think that's what Hannah was getting at, is these are problem watersheds that we have visited. We're going to continue to visit and collect more data in hopes of analyzing what's actually happening in these watersheds.
And I should note that in addition to Eagle staff going out and collecting miscellaneous flow measurements, U.S. Geological Survey has their own staff going out to 30 different locations around the state where they're collecting miscellaneous flow measurements at least 3 times a year during the irrigation season. And 5 of those 30, correct me if I'm wrong, Clay, but 5 of the 30, they're actually doing 5 per water year. So they get 1 before the start of irrigation, 3 during irrigation, 1 after the end of the irrigation season. In addition to the 5 or so continuous stream flow gauges that we fund USGS operating.
Yep, it's 10 of the 30 have 5 measurements.
And some of these watersheds, we may end up, if we've got a proposal in-house, if should funding become available to install additional stream gauges. So if the funding is available, some of these water management areas may end up getting stream gauges put in to collect continuous flow measurements.
You guys looked at like the cost analysis of like physically sending people out to take a measurement versus what it would cost to put a stream gauge in?
It costs roughly, what, 20,000 to install a new gauge and 16,000 for annual O&M. Is that right, Clay, or did I get those backwards?
I think that's right. I have to check my emails again to verify that, though. It's close to that.
And then you've got, for comparison, for a miscellaneous flow measurement, then you're looking at travel time, staff time, and meals. And that wraps it up. So are there any other questions?
To the screen, so. Hearing none, our next.
Oh, wait, there is.
oh,
John.
there's- Sorry?
Jim, just a quick question. Do you have your stream depletion area maps Or is that something that I'd have to do a special request for?
The zone D, the zone
Yeah.
C and D water management areas,
Yes, sir.
We can make it.
we can make that.
Okay. I appreciate it. Just want to keep track of it for where we're mapping, so I can use that.
Questions? Hearing none, our next agenda item, just a brief discussion, we have 3 more meetings remaining by the end of our report time. Our goal was actually to have a report completed before our December meeting. We will continue to have an online format. However, we really need to encourage attendance here at our next couple of meetings to have a quorum so that we can advance the ball down the yard line, a few more yards. So our next meeting is scheduled for October 11th. I will tell you that it was very nice to pull in the parking lot today and find only a half dozen parking places available. This building is nearly full again, and it's exciting to see the activity. So.
On a Tuesday, come here on a Monday or Friday, it's the ghost.
Now I have an open comment period. I know we have one staged already. From what I heard, Andy's going to read an email on a comment.
Andy, are you still on?
Yes, I am. You ready for that? All right, so the following email was actually submitted as a public comment on a water withdrawal permit application that's currently under review by Eagle, and the same comment was also submitted to the Water Use Advisory Council email here and was requested to be read into the record at today's meeting. So the permit application that's referenced in the comment here is for Pfizer's request to increase their withdrawal capacity by, it's like 4.32 million gallons per day at the Kalamazoo manufacturing site there. And the article that's referenced in these comments was run on mlive.com on September 4th. And at that time, there had not been any public comments received on the permit application yet. There have been now, when the public comment period officially closed yesterday, although we could still take some if they come in after this. But the 45-day minimum comment period closed yesterday. So these following comments are made by John Steers of Vicksburg, Michigan, and he has made comments to the council before and attended in the past, but he sent these comments in by email. So here I quote from here on out. Last week, I opened up my email to find our Water Use Advisory Council somehow claiming ignorance as to even the basic tenets of our Opens Meeting Act, not to mention attempting to pass off the unbelievable above as but an oversight. The above article landed in my inbox not days later, as the Water Use Advisory Council feigned both the ability to prioritize literally watershed events nor react even in an individual professional manner through public commentary. Not one single member, nor 1 out of 120 Water Use Advisory Council email recipients commented. Here is my sole commentary, apparently, to the state of Michigan regarding this extremely historic event. Our grandchildren should not be proud. I am submitting this commentary for the historic record, as I strongly believe in the following. No entity, public or private, should have been grandfathered absolutely any water rights, period, in the past. This truth is biblical and should have been the foundational basis of all legislative water sharing discussions in the past, present, and future. Any large withdrawal of God's most precious resource should be painstakingly monitored and accounted for in detail, especially its true reason for being pumped, from the second that his volumetric blessing leaves this earth, through every conveyance that it travels, and most importantly, at its final discharge 24/7, 365. No request of this magnitude, especially approximately 1.6 billion extra gallons of water per year, should even be considered to be granted without multiple public hearings involving especially every single member of the Michigan Water Use Advisory Council membership and their 100+ auxiliary mailing list, long used for every single meeting spanning decades. If no member chooses to even so much as provide one single commentary regarding this application, the council should be dissolved and rebuilt. The entire Water Use Advisory Council membership refused to tackle the politics of a taboo Virgin Kalamazoo Valley bedrock aquifer large quantity withdrawal not long ago at US 131 and I-94, which again met not even the most basic moral standard of who would get what of God's most precious gift on a daily basis. This is not about evil pharmaceutical companies, cones of depression used to keep pollution necessarily confined, nor those who use current law or lobby for new legislation to their necessary advantage. We are a free country with not so involved citizens who can only blame ourselves for our problems. It is about Americans not demanding that we all come to the table with nothing to hide, see farmers, utilities, etc. as well, while minimally expressing our opinions in the public sphere so as to educate our inheriting children. Upjohn, Pharmacia, and Pfizer have done the best job that they can with a bad situation which this community has supported. Yet simply fast-track granting enormous large quantity withdrawal requests after making the mistake of grandfathering large quantity withdrawals 10 times larger does not help them become the corporate citizens they seek to be. We have to face the legacies that we are handing down involving the future of potable water yesterday. This request is either the first step to the first time ever having those conversations openly and honestly as a community, or simply yet another empty list opportunity lost, as the quotation above predicts. Blame is not an option. Using the best and brightest in this community to openly solve our way forward so that our grandchildren can thrive here is our only sensible course of action. Thank you for listening to an old pump man who has literally seen it all concerning the subject matter. If I can ever be an honest partner in helping solve what my generation has burdened the next with, my door is always open as God desires. John Steers, Vicksburg, Michigan. End quote. So John had requested that be read aloud in the meeting. I know, maybe email comments might not always be read aloud, but he had specifically requested that here, and we had the time to grant it. So the preceding views were, of course, John Steers only and not necessarily reflect my personal views nor those of Eagle. And I'd also be happy to answer any questions about the Pfizer permit application if you have any.
Thank you, Andy, and John, thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments? Anybody have their hand up online?
Mike, Frederick.
Michael?
I do. Thank you. You guys may or may not be aware the cement industry has discontinued a particular type of cement that is used for either plugging wells or for grouting wells where cement is used. That cement, the manufacture of that cement has been discontinued, which means there is no longer any cement available that is authorized by statute. So as a result of that, the Michigan Groundwater Association has asked the department to revise the administrative rules to allow for what's known as type 1L cement. It's just a different formulation. But until then, we have advised our members and local health departments that a well that requires the use of cement, either for grouting or shallow bedrock or for abandonment, cannot be completed according to the law. So we must stop that activity until the administrative rules are changed. We have requested the department to revise that. They are in the process of doing that, but you're looking at 6 to 12 months possibly to get that done. So for those of us that irrigate and require the use of cement for your irrigation well, you will not be able to do so until those rules are revised. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Doug, you information? No.
No, I know we have a cement shortage, so, I mean, that's, it kind of goes right on your mind, so.
Budget in today's current prices.
Do you know why that type of cement was discontinued?
That I don't know. I don't know, Mike, do you have an idea of why
Yeah.
why?
The reason is a carbon issue. So what they're trying to do is to reduce their carbon output. So what they went from is a regular, what was known as Portland cement, to what's known as now Portland limestone cement. It's a blending of 15 to 20% limestone after the calcination process. So, and it's simply to reduce your carbon output, your carbon footprint. From everything I understand, your cementitious properties that you need to make cement is not any, or to make concrete is no different between the two products. It's just the type 1L, which is being manufactured and used now, is not authorized according to statute. So, or the administrative rules.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing that with us. Dave, on the comments that he made, they wandered around quite a bit, but I was trying to make sure I understood them. And Andy, maybe you can fill in the blanks for me, but what I understood is that he's talking about specifically one application that would be for an industry, which would be Pfizer, which has a very large withdrawal right now. And there's some incremental increase in that. But it sounded like he's advised us of something before, and I don't recall anything like that. So I wasn't sure. Has he communicated with us before? He's commented, and I always thought that we've been open to his comments.
Yeah.
And I'm not aware of anybody in this council that has shied away from our involvement at all.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to point out that in Mr. Steer's email, he cited a September 4th news article. But as Andy mentioned, the public notice period for the Pfizer permit application closed September 12th. So the public notice period was still open, and as of September 4th, to the best of our knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, we hadn't received any public notice comments on the Pfizer permit application. We now have received Mr. Steer's email, which will be treated as a public notice comment reviewed, and then we will discuss internally how to appropriately respond to it.
But I guess when you make comments before, I understood what he was saying in his context. This one, he was saying things that I wasn't sure why he thought this was our purview. And I guess the thing that I just want to touch base on is that what I would understand from the situation is that this is an increased use of existing water withdrawal. It's being done under a large quantity. It's permitted because it's beyond 2 million gallons per day. And there's a process that's laid out for that. There is no process that includes consultation with us. We might be informed of it just as courtesy, but there's no approval process from this council. Strictly the department makes a decision on information that's given and what's set out in statute.
Your understanding is correct, Dave. And under 32723, an aggrieved party does have the ability to file for an administrative contested case hearing within 60 days of that final decision, which has not been made yet.
Well, I am familiar with this withdrawal because it has a very, very history. And it is one that is very sensitive because there's don't want contamination coming in the site. So they have to pump to keep that contained. And water goes to the kilns, then we sort of treatment plant, which has special ability to treat very sophisticated chemicals, which is unique in the state. I'm aware all of that is part of the context of this thing. So I would say I'm not aware of anything that makes this out of other than that context, of the unusual that we should be talking about.
any other public?
Will there be a reason back
Well, I think his,
outlining that, like, so that he understands, like, what we have purview over and what we don't type of thing, and how that's handled, and still where, like, if he has grievances, like, where are his opportunities still to
His opportunity lies in his ability to voice his public comment with us and also with the state. It sounds like he did that. And it's in there, in the state's hands. It's not anything that we have control over.
Right, I'm just asking because here's where he wanted his comments, right, because he couldn't be here. Do we have any sort of obligation or thought to communicate back to him kind of the things we just discussed?
We haven't in the past.
I went through that just because I want to make sure we weren't missing something that we really should be seeing. I don't see.
As always, these are open and public meetings. The public is invited to attend. And John is certainly invited to attend again. Desires.
And outline the process and our response. The avenue is the contested case process. If someone's aggrieved by a permitting action, it's not through this council.
Any other, we're still in open comments, folks. Anybody else? Any hands up out there? Other? No? With that, I thank everybody for coming today and attending online, and look forward to seeing you again on October 11th. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
And you did great. You were still 40 minutes early.
You're gonna make it home for dinner.
Bye, everybody.
Nice job, Andy. That was a good presentation.
Oh, you can do that, Sid?
Well,
Yeah.